I never imagined that the greatest heartbreak of my life wouldn't come from losing someone. It would come from watching my own daughter choose a life where I no longer belonged. The day the wedding invitations arrived, I smiled before opening the envelope. I had spent months secretly collecting little gifts for Emily's big day. Every mother dreams of helping her daughter walk into a new chapter. But my smile disappeared the second I unfolded the card. My name wasn't there. Instead, there was a small handwritten note. "Mom, please don't come. It'll be easier for everyone." I read those words again and again. My hands were shaking so badly that I dropped the invitation onto the kitchen floor. For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. How could the little girl who used to run into my arms after every nightmare suddenly decide I wasn't welcome at the happiest day of her life? I kept searching for another explanation. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe another invitation was coming. Maybe. But deep inside, I already knew. It wasn't. For nearly 3 years, Emily had been growing more distant. Every phone call became shorter. Every holiday ended with awkward silence. Every visit felt like she couldn't wait to leave. Whenever I gently asked if something was wrong, she'd smile politely. "I'm just busy, Mom." But mothers notice things other people don't. She stopped asking for my advice, stopped sharing her dreams, stopped laughing the way she used to. Then Daniel entered her life. At first, he seemed charming, successful, confident, the kind of man who always knew exactly what to say. But something about him made me uneasy. Whenever I spoke, he'd interrupt. Whenever Emily hugged me, he'd glance at his watch. Whenever family plans were made, somehow they always changed to suit him. I tried convincing myself I was simply struggling to let go. Until everything changed. One afternoon, Emily looked at me with cold eyes I'd never seen before. "Daniel thinks you've always tried to control me." The words hit harder than she could ever imagine. Control her? I had worked 2 jobs after her father passed away, skipped meals so she could attend college, sold my wedding jewelry to pay her tuition. Every sacrifice had been made out of love, not control. Still, I stayed silent, because sometimes mothers choose peace over proving they're right. Then came the invitation, or rather, the invitation telling me not to come. That night I cried harder than I had at my husband's funeral. Not because I wasn't invited, but because I realized I'd already lost my daughter long before the wedding. What I didn't know that day was that the most unbelievable part of this story hadn't happened yet. The weeks leading up to the wedding felt endless. Friends kept asking what dress I was wearing. Neighbors smiled whenever they mentioned Emily's big day. Each question felt like reopening the same wound. I lied every single time. "Oh, it's going to be beautiful." I couldn't bring myself to admit the truth. On the morning of the wedding, I stayed home. I turned off my phone, closed every curtain. I didn't want to imagine another woman helping my daughter into her dress. I didn't want to picture someone else sitting in the front row, where I always believed I'd be. Around noon, my sister Linda called. "You need to know what's happening." I almost didn't answer. Then she whispered something that made my heart stop. "Daniel's family has been telling everyone you abandoned Emily after her father died." "What?" "They're saying her grandparents raised her." I couldn't even speak. It wasn't just a lie. It erased my entire life. Every sleepless night. Every overtime shift. Every birthday cake I baked after working 16 hours. Every school play. Every scraped knee. Every bedtime story. I had become the villain in my own daughter's story, for the first time. I understood why so many relatives had suddenly stopped calling. They hadn't forgotten me. They believed the lies. I wanted to defend myself, to expose everything. But who would believe the mother who wasn't even invited to her own daughter's wedding? So I stayed silent. Again. Days passed after the ceremony. Pictures flooded social media. Emily looked beautiful. Daniel looked proud. Everyone congratulated them. I stared at each photo longer than I should have, searching for any sign that she was happy. Then something unexpected happened. 3 weeks later, my phone rang. Emily, for the first time in months. I answered immediately. Before I could even say hello, she whispered, "Mom." She was crying, real crying, the kind she used to do as a little girl after falling off her bicycle. "I need to see you." Within an hour, she stood at my front door. She looked exhausted. Dark circles surrounded her eyes. Her confident smile had disappeared. Without saying a word, she hugged me, for nearly a minute. Neither of us spoke. Then she finally looked at me. I was wrong. Those 4 words carried years of pain. She confessed everything. Daniel had spent years convincing her that everyone was trying to manipulate her, especially me. He isolated her from friends, controlled their money, read her messages, criticized every decision she made. The wedding wasn't about love. It had been about control. Even banning me had been his idea. She admitted she'd ignored every warning because she believed love required loyalty above everything else. Instead, she had given loyalty to the wrong person. I listened quietly, not because I wasn't hurting, but because I knew this wasn't the moment for anger, and that mattered more than being right. Then she looked at me with trembling hands. There's something I need to ask. I wasn't prepared for what came next. Emily reached into her purse and placed a folded envelope on my table. Inside were divorce papers. "I've already spoken to a lawyer," she said softly. "I've left him." I felt relief, but then she continued. "My final request," she paused as tears rolled down her face, "is for you to walk me down the aisle." I looked at her in confusion. "The aisle? I'm planning another ceremony." She smiled through her tears. "Not because I want another wedding." She took my hand. "Because I want my family back." She explained that the first ceremony had never truly belonged to her. Every detail had been controlled by Daniel and his family. The guest list, the speeches, even the music. She wanted one final day, not to celebrate a marriage, but to celebrate freedom. Months later, our family gathered in a quiet garden. There were no expensive decorations, no grand ballroom, no fake smiles. Only the people who truly loved her. Emily wore a simple white dress. This time, she held my arm. As we slowly walked together, she whispered, "I should have trusted the woman who spent her whole life protecting me." I couldn't stop crying. Neither could she. When we reached the end of the aisle, there was no groom waiting. Only family, friends, and forgiveness. Emily stood before everyone. Then she did something no one expected. She publicly apologized. She admitted every lie she'd believed. She thanked me for loving her even when she'd pushed me away. Many relatives cried. Some even came forward to apologize for believing the false stories. As for Daniel, the truth eventually caught up with him. People discovered the pattern of manipulation he'd hidden for years. Friends distanced themselves. Business partners no longer trusted him. The perfect image he built slowly crumbled, not because anyone sought revenge, but because deception can only survive for so long before it collapses under its own weight. Watching it happen, I realized something important. The greatest revenge isn't making someone suffer. It's refusing to let their cruelty steal your peace. Today, Emily visits every Sunday. We bake together like we used to. Sometimes we laugh until we cry. Sometimes we simply sit in silence. Neither of us pretends the past never happened. Scars don't disappear, but they can remind us how strong we've become. If this journey taught me anything, it's this. Love can be manipulated. Truth can be buried. Families can break. But genuine love has a quiet strength that waits patiently for the truth to find its way home. And sometimes, the daughter who once banned her mother from her wedding becomes the woman who finally realizes that the only hand she ever truly needed to hold was her mother's.